नतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितां च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। सर्वशास्त्रादि पीयूष सर्ववैदिक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाध्य सर्वलौकिक दृक्प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवतो प्रभु कलिदंतो तितादित्या श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठाय प्रेम वर्ष अक्षराय ते सर्वद सर्वसेवाय श्री कृष्णाय नमोस्तुते। मद एक बंधु मद संगीन मद गुरुन् मद महादन मद निस्तारक मद भाग्य मद आनंद नमोस्तुते। असाधु साधु तादाइन अति नीच ताकरा हा ना मुंचा कदाचिन मां प्रेम न हृत कंठयो स्फुरः। O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisance unto you. By your recitation, one attains transcendental bliss because your syllables shower down pure love of God. You are to be served by everyone, always, for you are an incarnation of Lord Sri Krishna. नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। श्रीमतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनं हृद्यन्तस्तु अभद्राणि विधुनोति सुरसतां नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण। Hare Krishna, everyone. So thank you so much for joining. If you'd like to turn on your video cameras, you can turn it on. Okay, so we are discussing third canto, 29th chapter, and this chapter is titled Explanation of Devotional Service. So, in this chapter, up to this point, we have discussed up to text number 20. And this chapter actually started off with Devoti asking questions. And now she has actually asked more about this part of devotional service, which was previously explained in chapter number 25. And now she's particularly asked the point that how can one actually understand devotional service in different modes, you know, depending on the performer the mode that he is associated with, how can you understand his devotion, right? So again, this point is actually specified that devotional service itself is about the modes, but because the performer may be in a mode, then his bhakti is actually influenced by that mode. So based on that, we talked of devotional service um, in three modes. So performers of bhakti in three modes. So first we talked about bhakti, which is actually a performer is actually in the mode of ignorance. And in that we said, what is his intention? His intention is more of envy, violence, pride, and Binnadrik. He is actually devoid of compassion. Right? So that's the first one. Second, bhakti, which is actually performed by a person in the mode of passion. Right? So he's doing bhakti, and while he's doing bhakti, what is he desiring? He's actually desiring that, oh, from my bhakti, I will get material profit. I will get name, fame, people will worship me. That is bhakti performed by a person in the mode of passion. And then what is goodness? Yes, he is doing bhakti, and bhakti in the mode of goodness, in the person, he's actually engaging in bhakti to actually get free from karma, free from the results of karma. And he's doing the bhakti just as an offering, as a duty, or offering the results to Krishna. Right? So we discussed this point that how Bhagavad Gita makes the point, yet karosi, yet asnasi. Now that point of offering everything to Krishna is actually bhakti performed by a person in a mode of goodness. Right? Now, and what is pure devotional service? So what is pure, then and that famous verse, Mad guna shruti matrena mai sarva guhaya. As soon as you hear the quality of Krishna, what happens? Just like how Ganga flows uninterrupted to the ocean, similarly our mind, our heart runs towards Krishna, flows towards Krishna, and that is pure devotional service. Right? And it's a Lakshanam Bhakti Yoga said. This is the Lakshan, this is the symptom of pure devotional service. And Nirgunasya, it is above the three modes. Ahituki Avyahita. Ahituki, we have heard this word before. Uninterrupted, unmotivated also. And Ya Bhakti, Purushottama. This is actually the highest kind of bhakti, Purushottama. This is the highest kind of bhakti, right? Manogatir avichanna. The mind is naturally attracted to Krishna. As soon as one hears the qualities, the mind is flows continuously to Krishna unobstructed. Right? And this kind of bhakti then further Lord Kapila makes the point that at this stage of bhakti one does not even aspire for liberation. There is no other desire other than desire to please Krishna. So even if someone is giving you liberation, and if that liberation is not favorable for your service to Krishna, then you will not accept that liberation. Right? And yes, so that was the point we discussed. And then, okay, so we talked of bhakti based on the performer in three modes. We talked of pure devotional service. Now, naturally, one may think that how can one come to the stage where, as soon as we hear, our mind is actually attracted to Krishna? Wouldn't it be so nice? Like how we gave the example of Mukunda. He just sees a peacock feather and he sees the peacock feather actually not on Krishna, but someone is using a peacock fan to fan a Muslim, a king, right? And Mukunda just sees that and just seeing the peacock feather, immediately his mind is so attracted to Krishna that he actually faints in ecstasy. You know, faints in ecstasy. So that is the symptom there. We see that Mukunda has it. So naturally, the question is, how can we come to that point, right? And then Kapila Dev is actually giving a list of qualities that we actually discussed, or list of anga of bhakti, like the aspects of bhakti which one should do, by which one can come to the stage of pure devotional service. Right? What is it? So it starts off by executing a swadharma, do your sadharma without expectation of profit, right? And then further, you won't go through all, but he talks of seeing the deity, worshipping the deity, touching the deity. Then with dhairya, read the word dhairya. With patience, one should actually execute devotional service. And then being friendly to everyone, showing compassionate to the dina, right? Then hearing about Krishna, chanting the holy name, Nam Sankirtana, chant the holy names of Krishna, be straightforward in one's behavior, all those activities. And then the last verse we read, like in text 18, Prabhupada elaborates that list further. And he actually talks of 18 qualities from the Bhagavad Gita. And he says, like, these all qualities one should actually have. so that one's mind is naturally attracted to Krishna. So Prabhupada in the purport to text 18, he made the point that one should be non-violent, one should be truthful, one should refrain from stealing, right? Should abstain from sex life, possess only what is absolutely necessary to keep body and soul together, not eat more than necessary, not collect more paraphernalia than necessary, not talk unnecessarily, not follow rules and regulations, only not following rules and regulations without any purpose, without understanding the purpose behind them, right? And so on. Right? So, so those are the qualities. And then Kapila Muni concluded by making the point that one who actually follows these angas of bhakti, then he can come to the stage of pure devotional service. So that's where we came, and we stopped at that point. Okay. Let's see if anyone has any comments or any questions, any points we would like to uh, add that you remember from last time. Mm. Okay. Everyone okay? Ready to continue further? And devotees who can, please, you can turn on your cameras if you can. It'd be nice to have more live audience that way. Okay. So let's continue. So now we talked of the points that will lead us to pure devotional service. But what is one thing that will actually be an obstruction for us to come to a point of pure devotional service? That is offenses. Right? Aparad, we talk about aparad. So now Kapila Muni will actually explain what are the obstacles in bhakti which are actually caused due to offenses. Right? So that's the next section. Right? So from 21st verse to 27th, he'll actually focus on this point of what are the offenses one should avoid. Okay. So let's start text number 21.
Text 21. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatmavastita sada tam avagyaya mamartyah kurutercha vidambanam.
I am present in every living entity as the supersoul. If someone neglects or disregards that supersoul everywhere and engages himself in the worship of the deity in the temple, that is simply imitation. Hare Krishna.
So the point here is that the offenses they actually create a restriction. Like we are progressing on the path of bhakti, but offenses are almost like restricting us from progressing. And what is the root cause of all offenses? Anyone wants to say? What is the root cause of all the offenses?
False ego.
False ego. Okay, good point.
Avidya.
Okay, ignorance. Okay,
Offending a Vaishnava.
offending a Vaishnava. Okay,
Forgetful of our position.
what's that, Shriram? Okay.
Forgetful of our position,
Forgetful of our position. Okay.
which is the false ego, I guess.
Not not acknowledging that, not understanding that Krishna is in every living
Mm,
soul.
point. So thank you for the nice points. It's good everyone shared. So everyone is awake to the path of the Bhagavatam. So now, what is the point that is actually explained that offense generally rises from disrespect to great devotees? Right? That is the main, we say Vaishnava Aparadha is the most serious of all offenses. And here, Vishwanath Thakur is making the point that that is the root cause of all the other offenses. And he says that such great devotees, they are difficult to see, though so many exist. You know, I mean, like, how can we, I mean, okay. So, one way, how can we know what level of bhakti a person is at? I mean, Rupa Goswami gives certain keys to know because we need to also see who is, which devotee should we worship, which devotee should we serve, whom we should associate. But in general, we cannot see the devotion in the heart of a person, right? So, because it is hard to say, okay, this person is a devotee, right? So, in order to avoid offenses to them, one should pay respects to all living entities. All living entities one should pay respect, and hence this entire section is actually focusing on that part. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making the point: the root cause of all offenses is disrespect to to living entities. Okay. So in this verse, what do you say? Aham sarvasya bhuteshu. I sarvasya, all bhuteshu. I am in all living entities. Bhutatma avasita. I am situated as what? Super soul. Sada, always. And that key word, that word sada is there because sometimes when person comes and does something bad, or or is doing some sinful activity, some horrible activity, then we may think that, oh, there is no super soul in that person. No, no. Super soul, however horrible a person is, or whatever the person does, the super soul is always present in him. Right? Hence the word Sada Aham Sarveshu Bhuteshu. I am always present. But Tam Avagya Mam Marteha. But if someone is avagya, one is ignorant of this fact, and then what does he do? He actually neglects or disregards me in all beings. Kurute Archana Vidambanam. Right? So Vidambanam, Prabhupada translates Vidambanam as imitation. Right? So if a person who is not giving respect, or who is like disregarding other living entities, disregarding the presence of the Paramatma in every living entity, and he's worshipping the deity in the temple, then his deity worship is just like an imitation. That means, it is just like there's no purpose, there's no value to it. Right? So that's the point. And Prabhupada in the purport, he actually makes the point. In Krishna consciousness, one sees the presence of Krishna everywhere, right? So if someone was worshipping a deity, but he disregards other living entities, he is the lowest grade of devotional service, right? Prakrita Bhakta, right? So this is I'll quote this verse because Prabhupada quotes it in the next verse. But in 11th canto, this verse, that distinctions between different devotees, Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttam Adhikari is actually mentioned. And in that section, what is the lowest of all? A Kanishta Adhikari. A Kanishta Adhikari is also known as a Prakrita Bhakta. Prakrita, in the sense that he's like a materialistic devotee. He's worshipping the deity, but he's actually disrespecting other living. He does not know how to deal with other living entities. Then his entire worship is simply an imitation. So Prabhupada further makes the point that we have to understand everything in relationship with Krishna and try to serve everything. It's interesting that Prabhupada uses this word, serve everything. Normally we talk of serving everyone. But Prabhupada says we serve everything. How do you serve a thing? By actually seeing its connection to Krishna and using that thing in Krishna's service. If we are using a pen in Krishna's service, then that pen is actually serving Krishna. Right? How Prabhupada makes a point that how we are using this microphone to amplify our voice. Right? And it's a microphone because spiritual sounds are being amplified with it. That is also being spiritualized now, right? Spiritualized now. So that way we can use everything in Krishna's service. And Prabhupada talks about the principle of Yukta Vairagya. So we want to use everything in Krishna's service, and we want to engage everyone in Krishna's service. Use everything in Krishna's service and engage everyone in Krishna's service. And a devotee who does that, that is a advanced devotee. Advanced devotee. Mhm. Okay, next verse 22. It's related to this. Continue further.
22. Yo mam sarveshu bhuteshu santamatmanamishwaram idvarcham bhajate modhyad bhasmanyeva juhoti saha.
Hare Krishna translation. One who worships the deity of Godhead in the temples but does not know that the Supreme Lord, as Paramatma, is situated in every living entity's heart must be in ignorance and is compared to one who offers oblations into ashes.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making the point that Kapil Dev is almost speaking in an angry mood. That see, People are got the greatest opportunity to engage in devotional service, but see their mentality. They are actually disregarding or neglecting living entities. So here he says hitva. Hitva means he disregards. Right? So yo mam sarveshu bhuteshu. Very similar to the previous verse. Yo mam sarveshu bhuteshu. I mam sarveshu bhuteshu. In everyone's heart as Paramatma, as the Supreme Lord. Archa bhajate. And if he is worshipping the deity while he is disregarding me in all living beings, then Maudhyat, because of ignorance, then Juhoti Bhasmi. Another example is given. So previous verse says it's just like an imitation. This verse says, like, let's say you're doing a fire yagya and the fire has somehow gone off, but still you're going and doing swaha, swaha. There's no fire, right? You're offering the ghee into ashes. What is the use of that? So similarly, that deity worship, what is the use of that, right? And it's very practical. Like, I mean, we can think about this point that uh, maybe like, as a pujari, like we are like, dressed in all pujari dress and doing our nice elaborate worship. And then while we are doing the worship, we are thinking what? Oh, see me. I am a second initiated Brahman doing such nice worship. Well, this is a new bhakta, you know. What does he know? Or I am doing such important seva. What is he doing? So as soon as we think like this, that's already an offense. That's already an offense. You know. The right mood is yes, we are worshipping the Lord, and we will look around and say, oh, see, the Lord is so merciful. He is manifested in the heart of every living entity. Krishna is right there. Krishna, whom I'm worshipping, he is in this person's heart as Paramatma. That is the right vision, right? So, share my screen. Let me see. Let me just share my screen. So, in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when there's Uddhav Gita section, there, let me see. Yeah. I'm just trying to share my screen. So, okay. So here, so if you see this verse, 1084:13, right? This is a verse Prabhupada very frequently quotes. Yasyatmi buddhi kunapetir dhatuke swadhi kalatradishu bhauma ijjati yatirtha buddhe shalila nakarichit janeshu abhigeshu sa eva gokharaha. That person is compared to a donkey. Kharaha, ass or a donkey. Who? Yasyatma buddhi kunupeti dhatuke. One who actually thinks that I am this body made of mucus, bile, or air. That's first one. Swadhi Kalatradeshu. And he thinks that, oh, my wife and so on is actually permanently, this is mine. They think this is permanently mine. That's second. Third, who actually thinks that my birth, where the place where Bhaumya Ijjati, where I've actually taken birth, that place is worshipable. Fourth, yet Tirtha Buddha Salilana Karishit, who actually goes to pilgrimage merely to actually see, okay, I want to bathe in holy waters, but not actually going to associate with the sadhus who are at the dham, right? And so all this, he says, that person is actually no better than a cow or an ass. So this one Prabhupada often quotes. And the second one here is Archayam eva hare pujam ya shraddhayete na tad bhakteshu janeshu satat bhakta prakrita smritaha. So this 11 to 47. Oh, sorry, this is not Uddhav Gita. This comes before in Navyogendras. Navyogendras. They are actually making the point of what is Kanishtadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, and Uttam. And this is a definition of Kanishta. A devotee who engages in worship of the deity in a temple but does not behave properly to other devotees or people in general, that person is considered in the lowest position or he is a Prakrita Bhakta. Right? So that's what we are reading here, right? A Prakrita Bhakta. He's in the lowest. Yes, he's doing some devotional service, but his devotional service is just like an imitation. Right? Okay. Prabhupada here makes the point that a jiva, a living entity, is part and parcel of Krishna, right? So one is the aspect of seeing Paramatma in everyone's heart, but also recognizing that this is an Atma, this is an Amsha of Krishna. So both, whether we have just the understanding of Atma or we have the understanding of Paramatma, in both cases we need to respect, because even Atma is actually a part and parcel of Krishna, right? So both Atma and Paramatma is actually present there, right? Therefore, we should see the presence of God in every living entity, right? And Prabhupada makes this point, I mean, this is very practical that, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur also elaborates on this, that some people say that, oh, what path I am following, that is the best. Everyone else is going to hell, you know. I mean, they have this fanatic religious practitioners, and they make the point that, you are all like going to hell, like it's all, you're useless, I mean, that kind of fanaticism, is that pleasing to the Lord? No, it's so Prabhupada makes the point that people who actually say that, oh, I belong to so and so, but they actually are not seeing the presence of the living entity, presence of the Lord in every living entity, their worship is in the mode of ignorance. Hmm. And there's a joke we say, in our ISKCON circle. They say, everyone else says, uh, let's see, what is it? Yeah. Everyone else says that my philosophy is the best. Everyone else is wrong. But because we don't say that, yes, we say we have the right philosophy, but also others, yes, they are practicing based on wherever mode they are. And yes, if you're, like how Prabhupada said, if you're a Christian, be a true Christian. Yes, appreciate, right? You're developing your love of God, okay, you're good, right? So that way we say, okay, whatever you're doing, that's fine, right? I mean, if your process is helping you develop love for God, yes, you're on the right path, right? That's what Prabhupada said. And because we say that, hence we are the best. You see the point. We started out by saying that sometimes people say we are the best, everyone else is wrong, right? And that itself is not right to say that. Now, a devotee is saying that, see, other people are saying this. But what do we say? No, if any path you follow that is actually leading you to develop your love of God, then that is good. Therefore, because we say that, we are the best. You see the point? We come back to the same point and we say like, oh, we are the best because we don't say that, So that joke was there. But anyway, so the point is that if you are connecting, like another, in the fourth canto, Prabhupada and purport makes a point that if someone is actually saying, I'm the best, everyone else is going to hell, and he's actually disregarding other living entities, then what kind of religion is he really practicing? So that's the point. Okay, so Prabhupada elaborates on that point where here this verse is saying he's offering ghee into ash. So Prabhupada says that even though one may have the best priest, one may have like proper chanting of all Vedic mantras, everything, externally is all perfect. But if that performer or the person who is actually conducting that yajna, if that person is thinking, oh, everyone else is useless, see how great I am doing this, you know, what is the use? His all this offering is just into ashes. Okay. And then also Prabhupada here, he talks about, when we hear Prabhupada's conversations with Christians, what is the main point that Prabhupada says? He actually makes the point that yes, okay, you're practicing Christianity, but isn't God the Lord you're worshiping in the heart of every living entity? And then he comes to the point, why are you maintaining slaughterhouses? And this is like, for almost like with all Christians, you see Prabhupada coming to a point. Jesus Christ says, thou shalt not kill. Why are you maintaining slaughterhouses where so many thousands and thousands, and they have some statistics, like every minute, so many thousands and thousands of innocent animals are killed? What kind of religion are you practicing? You know, where you are encouraging killing of thousands and thousands of animals, then how will your God be actually pleased if you are actually, encouraging this kind of killing? So, okay. Okay, so that's 21 and 22. Let's go to 23. So 21, 22, both are kind of similar. One is talking of neglecting the Lord, and one is disregarding the Lord. Right? Now let's see 23.
Text 23. Dvishata parakaye mam manino bhina darshinaha bhuteshu badha varyasya namana shantim richati. Namse Gopal, are you able to read?
Mataji, I would need some time, Mataji.
Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. One who offers me respect but is envious of the bodies of others and is therefore a separatist never attains peace of mind because of his inimical behavior towards other living entities.
Hmm. So here the word is used dvishataha. Dvishataha means one who is actually envious or he hates other living entities. So if someone is envious, para kaya, towards the body of another, ma maninaha. Right. Yeah. So who is envious towards the body of others, then he is Bhinna Darshina. He is a separatist. So we saw this word Bhinna Darshina even when we are talking of the different modes. If you remember, there we read the point Pritak Bhava, Bhinna Drika. Bhinna Drika, Drika again is vision. Bhinna Drika is one who is actually having a separate vision of the Lord. So similarly here we are seeing Bhinna Darshina, separatist. Right? Na manaha shantim richati. Na manaha shantim richati. His mind can never obtain peace. Right? Badha, one who is actually inimical to others. So if someone is envious, dvisataha, and badha, vairasyaha, who is actually inimical towards other living entities, then that person can never attain peace of mind. Hmm? And here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Prabhupada also elaborates in the purport. What does Bhinna Darshina actually mean? One who does not recognize that his own suffering is also felt in the same way by others. You know, when I actually experience some kind of suffering, that suffering the other persons is also experiencing. Right? So if you are not having that kind of vision, what we talk of empathy, right? Seeing the other person, oh, he's going through suffering. What is the nature of a Vaishnava? Para dukkha dukhi. He sees others suffering and he himself experiences that suffering. Right? So that is on the positive side. So Bhinnadrik means we are not saying, oh, we don't recognize other suffering. We are actually just focused on ourselves. We are envious or we hate other people. And Prabhupada, he starts with, in purport, he makes a point. These 2 points, if someone is inimical towards others or envious of another, he can never experience any happiness. If we are inimical, if we are envious, then what is that envious feeling? It is just like a burning sensation in our heart. It's just like a fire in our heart. We are envious. Oh, this person, he has this and this. And as long as the fire in the heart is there, how can we actually experience happiness? So what should be a vision of a devotee be? A vision of a devotee must be perfect. He should ignore bodily distinctions and see only the presence of the Paramatma in the heart of every living entity. Right? In Nectar of Instruction, text number 6, what does Rupa Goswami say? दृष्टे स्वभाव जनितेर वपुषस्य दोषे न प्राकृतत्वम इह भक्त जनस्य पश्ये गंगाबसम न खलु बुद्बुद फेन पंके ब्रह्म द्रवत्वम अपगच्छति नीरधर्म. What does he say in text 6 of Nectar of Instruction? That a vision of a pure devotee is that he does not see the body. Even though the body may have either born in a low family, or the body has a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased body. All these imperfections, a devotee does not see. And what is the example given? Just like Ganga, when it is a rainy season, Ganga may appear muddy, or there may be like bubbles, budbuda, right? Budbuda, so bubbles. But still, the Ganga is still Ganga. It is the water that has washed the lotus feet of Krishna. So similarly, a devotee's vision is in spite of external, some faults, a devotee sees beyond that. Right? What is the examples for this? We see in Chaitanya Charitamrita the example of Vasudev, the leper. Right? When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes to South India tour, he sees Vasudev the leper. And then he has leprosy all over his body. And what was his vision? That when worms were actually eating his body, all the sores, imagine, like, you cannot even think of it, like worms all over his body. And the worm used to fall off. He used to pick the worm and put it back on his body that, oh, worm, this is your food, please. I mean, we cannot even imagine that level of compassion where he's seeing the Lord even in the heart of a worm. What level of compassion? And when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually came, how did he treat Vasudev? He embraced Vasudev. And as soon as he embraced, imagine like his whole body is like full of these leprosy, these sores and worms. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced his body. And we see also with Sanatan Goswami, how when he was coming to Vrindavan, he drank some, bad water, and then he got all these. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him. Every day he used to come and embrace him. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't see that. Oh, he has all these sores, these imperfections over his body. Right now, I'll keep a distance. No, he saw the devotion in Sanatana Goswami. He saw the devotion in Vasudev, the leper. He embraced both of them. Right? So that is the vision of a pure devotee. And if you have that vision, see how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and embraced both these personalities. Right? Also, Prabhupada here in this purport makes the point that Lord is always eager to deliver the conditioned souls. So devotees are expected to carry the message, and the desire of the Lord, and to enliven every living entity. Right. So basically, what's the point here? The verse is actually saying that if you actually disregard or you are envious of living entities, but what's the vision of a devotee? He sees that the only reason everyone is unhappy is because of lack of Krishna consciousness. Hence, the vision of a devotee, because he's para dukkha dukhi, he is actually empathic, he's feeling for the suffering of other living entities. He actually, when he sees other people suffering, he somehow or other wants to help them. So instead of that having the mood of envy, he's seeing whatever is that position, how can I bring that person closer to Krishna? How can I help him in his path of bhakti? How can I, give him that mercy that is coming from our Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas? Somehow or other, that is the mood of a devotee. Right? And then Prabhupada actually makes a point. Well, for us, it's not possible so much for non-humans, but at least for non-humans, we can give them Krishna Prasadam. Right? So if you see a dog, animals, lower animals, give them Krishna Prasadam. As Grahastas is our duty, right? Sometimes we may have some leftover prasadam, and you put it outside, maybe somewhere in a garden. How many living entities will come have that prasadam? Right? Even in a temple, we have like every Sunday you go to the compost pile and you're putting away like some leftover prasadam, and you'll see like raccoons and other living entities, especially when white raccoon is there. And then he comes every Sunday for the Sunday feast. He's there always having that prasadam, right? So how much benefit they are getting, right? So the mood of a living entity is like everyone. Even the non, and Prabhupada here again gives the example of Shivananda Sen. I mean, Chaitanya Charitamrita is so amazing. See the life of Shivananda Sen when he was actually coming. We have discussed the story before, but it's just like I like this story so much that when he was bringing all the devotees to Jagannath Puri, and then a dog actually started walking with the team. Then Shivananda Sen, dog is also in the party, so you should feed him. Feed that dog, right? And one place they came, and Shivananda Sen had to stay back to pay some taxes, and the group went ahead. And then when he came, he didn't see the dog. And actually, one of the person who was assigned to feed the dog, imagine Shivananda Sen, he's planning all this, and he had one person assigned to feed the dog, and he forgot to do that. And then the dog went away. And then Shivananda Sen was so sad that he actually sent 10 Vaishnavas, go search where this dog is. Bring him, feed him, only then will I eat. Imagine, we cannot even consider the vision of a Vaishnava. And then all the Vaishnavas they searched, and it's 10 Vaishnavas, they didn't find the dog. And Shivananda Singh said, okay, I'm fasting. I'm not going to take food because the dog was not fed. And then all the Vaishnavas were actually surprised. It's like we searched everywhere, we cannot find this dog. And finally, when they reached Jagannath Puri, what did they see? Shivananda Singh saw that the dog was right next to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is feeding his own remnants to that dog. Like coconut pulp he was giving to the dog. And he's telling the dog, chant Hare Krishna, chant Hare Krishna. And the dog in his own way is chanting Hare Krishna. And when Shivananda Sain saw this dog and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he offered obeisances to the dog, saying that you are so fortunate. See, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personally giving you his own Mahaprasad. How fortunate you are. And this is the vision of a devotee. And the next day, people didn't see him because straight went back home, back to God. Right? So the vision of a devotee is so beautiful, this point is, right? Okay, next 24. So 21, 22 was neglect, disregard. 23, enviousness, inimical towards other living entities. Let's see what's 24.
Text 24. Aham uchavachar dravyai kriyayotpanana nayanage naiva tushir chitor chayam bhuta grama vamaninaha.
Is it okay, Mataji, if I read?
Yes, yes.
Hare Krishna. My dear mother, even if he worships with proper rituals and paraphernalia, a person who is ignorant of my presence in all living entities never pleases me by the worship of my deities in the temple. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So here the point is made, particularly the word is used is avamaninaha. That means criticizing. So one who actually criticizes other living entities. And here he says, Anage, O sinless mother, aham uccha avachai dravya kriyaya utpanaya. If someone is worshipping me with all perfect paraphernalia, like best chamara fan, best incense, diya, everything perfectly, all shining things, then maybe doing yagya, doing all this. Na eva tushe archita arya archata. I'm not pleased with that worship. When? When that Bhuta Grama Ava Maninaha, who's actually he's disrespectful or he's criticizing other living entities. He's doing all these worships so proper, but I am not pleased with his worship because he's criticizing other living entities. So here the point is actually made that actually criticism is worse than enviousness and hate. And the reference here, if you see 11 canto, this is Uddhav Gita, 11 canto, 23rd chapter, text number 3, where here the point is actually made that sharp arrows which pierce one's chest, let's say an arrow, yes, it is painful, but it is not as painful as the arrows of harsh, insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men. The more painful than just an arrow going through our heart is the pain of insulting words, pain of criticism. And why is this point made? That again, going back that, we should actually be emphatic, right? In the sense that if you feel the suffering of other. So if another person, when he's criticized, feels so much pain, then how much we should be careful not to criticize anyone. Yeah, not to criticize anyone. So Prabhupada in his purport, he actually says, Rupa Goswami gives 64. Oh, actually, no, that's a different reference. But 64 here, if you see in deity worship manual, the Pancharatrika Vidhi, you can do worship with 16 upchar or 64 different items. All that is there, detailed. So if someone is worshipping with all those 64 items, and that actually includes like jewelry, oil, incense, diya, then flowers, chamara, all these. So there's a whole list of 64 items which are actually used in deity worship. But if someone is doing all this 64 Upachar Diti worship. But if he's, what is the purpose? First of all, Prabhupada says, what is the purpose of all this? Is actually to exhibit one's loving devotion and gratitude. So when we are offering an incense, I mean, what is the value of the incense? The incense is actually an expression of our love and gratitude. Otherwise, the incense is, no value. Like, and then Prabhupada makes the point: Krishna has everything. You cannot bribe Krishna. Krishna, I'll buy you a gold thing, ornament for you. Krishna has everything. How can you bribe him? What is he looking for? Bhaktya. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya. He's using for that love, that devotion, right? So it is actually that mood in which the offerings are made rather than the offering, right? Rather than the item used for the offering. Therefore, the point is gratitude and love. And then, what do you mean by gratitude? Gratitude means you are grateful to the Lord. And if the same Lord is in every living entity, wouldn't that mood of gratitude shouldn't that be there for every living entity? And hence Prabhupada makes a point in purport that yes, it's not that, oh yeah, in my house I have beautiful deities, I'm doing this elaborate worship, right? In my private apartment, Prabhupada says, private apartment, and then I'm offering chappan bhog every day. And then when the offering comes, then I'm honoring nice prasadam. I mean, that's better than just eating karmi food. At least you're making the offering. But if that is the only standard, you're not expressing that gratitude to every living entity. That means if you're not distributing prasadam, then your worship is not very high standard. You may be worshipping elaborately the Lord in your house, doing all these chappan bhog every day. But if you're not distributing the prasad to all living entities, then your worship is not of a high standard. Right? So therefore, it is essential for those who are worshipping the deity to actually distribute prasadam. Right? In all our ISKCON temples, what did Prabhupada establish? Distribution of prasadam. Right? That famous story where Prabhupada was in Mayapur and there was a big festival, and a lot of prasadam distributed. But then Prabhupada was in his room and he came and he saw from the window, and there was an area where all the leftover plates, the leaf plates were actually thrown, and there was some food also, right? There was some food also, leftover food. And then Prabhupada saw that the dogs came and they were actually eating the leftover food. That's okay. But then he saw the poor children of the area. They came and they were had to fight with the dogs to get the leftover. And Prabhupada was crying tears just seeing this. And devotees describe it was like continuously Prabhupada was like shedding tears seeing this. How these poor children, they have to fight with dogs to get leftover food? And Prabhupada said, 8 miles or 8 kilometers around every ISKCON center, no one should be hungry. Everyone should get Krishna Prasad. I mean, practically to implement the Prabhupada's desire is actually not easy, but actually that we can appreciate that mood and try to do as much as we can. Right? Distribute prasadam, distribute. Let everyone get this mercy. If you're just worshipping and if you're not distributing, then your worship is not high standard. Okay. The point of criticism. So this is actually one way. Disregard. Then it goes more intense. That hate, inimical, and then worst is criticism. So these are the offenses. This is the root cause of all offenses. Yes, we may do all the activities before worshipping the deity, touching the deity, seeing the deity, doing our swakarma, all those activities that we read, the whole list. But if we are actually neglecting doing these 3 items, then all that will not lead us to pure devotional service. Right? It's a very important point. Okay. So what is the solution? Okay, what is the solution? Text 25. Right? How can we avoid this disregard, hatred, criticism? How can we avoid it? 25.
Text 25. Archadhav archayetavad ishvaramam sakarmakrit yavan navedasvaridi sarvabhuteshvavastitam.
Text 25. Performing his prescribed duties, one should worship the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead until one realizes my presence in his own heart and in the hearts of other living entities as well.
Hmm. So basically, what should one do? Archa Ado Archait. One should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should actually understand this is the Lord, the Paramatma in the heart. I am worshipping Him. At the same time, Swa Karma Krit. Perform your prescribed duties. Whatever is your Varna, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, whatever it is, you do your prescribed duties. And why is Kapila Dev actually recommending this? Why? Because he's making the point that because our antakaran, our mind, our consciousness is polluted, we have to continue engaging in the aspects of devotional service until we are actually purified. And when we are purified, then we can actually show. So, what is the solution to overcome the offenses? Engage in the activities of bhakti. That's the only way we can actually come to a stage where we can see Krishna in the heart of every living entity. And then Prabhupada makes a point, very nice point here. He says, if someone is engaging, like, people talk so much of like swakarma krit, do your prescribed duty. But if your prescribed duty is not leading you to understand the relationship with Krishna and the relationship with every living entity, then all your prescribed duty is useless. Right? Which is a verse in Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter.
Shramaye vahi kevalam.
Atha purve tuja
Other-
shesha. No, okay, that is the other one.
Samastita
Dharma,
Pumsam.
yes. Dharma swanista pumsam vishvaksena kathasvaya na utpadayadi ratim shama eva ekam. So there in the second chapter, first canto, what is the point made? That you're doing your duties of dharma, but if that's not leading you to an attraction to hear Harikatha, sham eva ekam. Another point here, what Prabhupada is saying, if you're doing your duties and if that's not leading you to understand your relationship with Krishna and the relationship of all living entities with Krishna, then Shama eva hi kevalam. So Prabhupada uses the same word. Simply labor, right? Without any profit. Okay. And then Prabhupada also makes a point. Swa karma krit means one should do his prescribed. A devotee also should engage in his prescribed duties. Arjuna fought the battlefield. He did the duties of Kshatriya. So one should not give up a prescribed duties out of laziness or saying that I am doing devotional service, so I don't need to work, do my prescribed. No, do all those things. It is necessary to set the right example and until our antakarana is actually purified. Okay, 26.
26. Atmanascha parasyapi yakarodyantarodaram tasya bhinna drisho mrityur vidadhe bhayam ulbanam. As a blazing fire of death, I cause great fear to whoever makes the least discrimination between himself and other living entities because of a differential outlook.
Bhinna drisha. So we are seeing this word bhinna drisha, brinna drik, bhinna darshinaha again and again in this section, right? So all this is actually having a differential outlook or separate vision. And he says what? Atmanaha, himself, parasya, other, ya karoti. So one who actually makes a difference between himself and others, right? Antara, between these two, for them, mrityu vadate bhayam ulbanam. I cause great fear as blazing fire of death. So as long as we are having that different vision, then we cannot come to the stage of actually understanding Krishna as the supreme protector, the maintainer, right? Because what is the aspect of surrender? Two aspects of surrender: Goptrite Varnam and then Avashya Rakhibe Krishna. Right? So these two aspects means what? Having that faith that Krishna is our protector, Krishna is our maintainer. But if we are not actually seeing, here it's saying we are making a difference between, Vishant Chakravarti Thakur is actually making the point that, that in this verse, basically one way Kapila Dev is saying, we are making a distinction between our own belly and the belly of others. Like I am eating nice rasgulla, kachori, all these nice prasadam, and I'm not caring for others. Then Krishna will come as a form of death personified. Right? He'll cause fear in our heart as the blazing fire of death. That means what? Krishna will punish us. That we are making a distinction. Even they are my children. Just like a father with many children, if the children between each other they're fighting, they're saying, "Oh, I am better. I will take the food in the house. I won't give my brother." Well, will the father be happy? No way. Right? So similarly here, the same point is actually there. Right? So if you're making a distinction, my belly and others' belly, then Krishna will come as that person. Okay, 27. The last verse in this section. Okay, then we'll take some reflections.
Text 27. Atamam sarvabhuteshu bhutatmanam kritalayam artayedanamanabyam maitriabhinena chakshusha.
Hare Krishna, 329:27. Therefore, through charitable gifts and attention, as well as through friendly behavior, and by viewing all to be alike, one should propitiate me, who abide in all creatures as their very self. Hare Krishna.
Hmm. So here he's saying ataha, therefore. So we're concluding this section. Therefore, what should one do? Arahet, when one is worshipping the Lord, what should we do? While worshipping Lord, Sarva Bhuteshu, in all living beings, Bhuta Atmana. This is very similar to the verse that we saw in 21, right? Bhutatma, that I am in every. So one should actually worship me, knowing that I am in the heart of every living entity, and therefore we should do what? Dana and mana. Dana means give charity. Mana means give respect. Right? So we should give respect, we should give charity, and then the second 2 points. Then third is Maitreya. We should develop friendship with all living entities. And fourth one, Abhinanena Chakshusha. We should view everyone with an equal vision. Right? So this last point of Abhinena Chakshusha, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually explains that yes, there will be people who will criticize you. But people who criticize you, who are actually hate you, what should your mood be to them? What should our mood be to them?
Krishna is
That of
teaching me a
compassion.
lesson.
Was that Shriyanam?
I was just thinking Krishna is sending me a message or teaching me a lesson through them.
Okay, nice point. Rashimati?
I was thinking compassion because, like, they are not reflecting within themselves, rather, they are looking at the faults of others. So, just compassion that it's okay, they don't know what they're talking about.
I mean that you have to be careful with that point in the sense
Yeah.
that you shouldn't think that, oh, they don't know my glories and hence they're finding
Not an ego, but also you could take it as a constructive criticism for benefit of ourselves.
yes, yes. Vamshi Gopal? Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing, bro. Like, what is the positive thing? If the criticism in a right way, like we can take as a improvement.
Okay, thank you. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making the point, even people who criticize us, we should worship them with gifts as much as we can. Why? Because they are actually finding out our faults, which are actually obstacles for us to come closer to Krishna. They are helping us in our bhakti by that. So therefore, I mean, this is very high level. We cannot, imitate. So based on a level, at least we should actually see them with a at least positive criticism. Like the points you made, maybe that's more that we can relate to. But here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying you should worship them. They say feedback is the breakfast of successful people. In the outside world, they say feedback is the breakfast of successful people. They live on feedback. They get the feedback, they're like, oh, yes, that's what I needed to hear. And so, so respect them with praise, giving them greater respect than ourselves. Right? So that mood. And then what is the example here of one story that we have discussed before where there was criticism, but still the persons still gave respect. Very nice story that we discussed earlier, where we saw this mood, very sweet mood in third canto. So the four Kumaras and Jay and Vijay. You know. So four Kumaras came and criticized Jay and Vijay. Right? Actually, Jay and Vijay first started. Then the four Kumaras said something. Right? But what was the point? So here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes 3:16:11 from that section, and he makes the point then Jay and Vijay, you know, they did not counter curse, but they actually maintained respect for the four Kumaras. You know. And because Jay and Vijay stopped them, and the four Kumaras immediately said, how are you making all these distinctions? You think, there'll be friends and enemies in this Vaikuntha? You're not qualified to be here. Maybe you're imposters. You should just go down. And then what was Jay and Vijay? Did they counter curse? Could they have counter curse? Yes, they could have. But they said what? Oh, you're Brahmanas. We didn't realize your glories. Please forgive us. You know? That is the example that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that Jay and Vijay, even though they were like cursed to go down, then they actually had that mood. These are Brahmanas. We made a mistake. We did not recognize them, and hence they offer their respects to them. So okay, so man and dan, right? Respect and charity. So four things we have to do. We have to do man, dan, respect, charity, maitra, and abhinena chakshusha. Even those people who may criticize us, who may hate us, we still are compassionate to them. So these four things he gives as the solution. Okay. Now, one thing that we have to clarify here that okay, that's fine. I mean, that comes a little later. So I'll talk about that next verse. But here, Prabhupada in the purport, he makes the point. Yes, we have to recognize that the Lord is in every living entity. And this is actually very, I just recently heard someone made this point. I think one of the university program, like an Indian said, yes, Lord is in every living entity. Hence, we should worship every living entity. Because everyone is Lord that way. That the point is that impersonal and Mayavadi is so like subtly there in the consciousness of people from India predominantly. That is so like kind of like yes, God is in everyone. Therefore, everyone is God. No, no, no. That doesn't mean that everyone is God. God is in everyone as Paramatma. That doesn't make that person God. So that Prabhupada clarifies that point that, and then they make up Daridra Narayan. Narayan has become poor. I mean, that word itself, how can Narayan be poor? He is the husband of the goddess of fortune, Daridra Narayan. So Prabhupada, he smashes that concept here. Okay. Okay. So that is this part. Now we'll go into the next section, but let's see any comments on this. So the four things what you have to do: charity, respect, a friendly behavior, equal vision, right? So those four. Plus, you continue your aspects of bhakti, you do your swakarma. So these 6 points, one we can say, is a solution to the offenses of disregard, hatred, and criticism. Any comments or any realizations at this point?
I had a question, if I can ask. When talking about not seeing the imperfections in others and like just like not noticing, respecting the Ganga even though there's foam. And so my question is, like, as we're doing services, like we have to make some changes and make some like, okay, we have to see some imperfections so that we can make adjustments and changes. So how do we have the vision of, like, how can we do that without being critical, judgmental, but just seeing, okay, this could be improved. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
in others, you're saying?
Yes, if we're seeing something in others that are in a like, let's say some kind of activity, and we think, okay, this could be improved, but at the same time, we don't want to notice like negative things. But so, how
I
do
think
we?
last time also we discussed this point. It's like, yes, we notice it, but what is our intention beyond it? If we are in a position where, if someone is maybe we can help them, that we are noticing something and say like, that this is not favorable to our bhakti. And if they actually see us as someone whom, we are guiding, or like, they see us as senior, then we can actually go and in a very nice, in a mood of compassion, try to help them to overcome that anartha, you know. And it's like, you know, in a very nice mood, not in a critical mood or saying that, oh, you're horrible. But okay, you know, even I have anarthas, I accept that. And, you know, I'm seeing this and, you know, I want to help you out. So, but it depends on that relationship has to be there where they accept you as senior, you know. Then that is first point. Then second point is, yes, we are seeing imperfections, and actually we need to see it. Just, you know, last time we discussed this point of association, who to associate with, swajatiya, right? We discussed 3 points in swajatiya, and there we made this point that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur again and again makes the point that a Vaishnava of not good behavior we should not associate with. I mean, now to know that a Vaishnava is worshipping the Lord, but he does not have good behavior, means we have to be aware. We have to just be conscious. But not that we are actually saying, oh, this person is this, and now we are telling everyone, oh, he's so horrible. Like in our heart, we still have affection for that person. We still have respect for that person. But our dealings, we have to make a discrimination, you know. So actually that, you know, so we have made all these points, but next section is Kapiladev is going to give a gradation of living entities. Because we said man and dan, right? Charity and respect. Now, does that mean that I go and embrace a tiger? There is snake in my backyard. I say, oh, snake, Krishna is right there in your heart. Please come. That would be crazy. You know, so we still have to make a distinction, right? Even Rupa Goswami, when he quotes this verse, text number 6, where he says, don't see imperfection in devotees, right? But still he talks of Kanishta Madhyam and Uttam. That means what? We still have to do, make distinction. But that distinction is noticing and in our heart still having the mood of respect, still having the mood of affection. And if that relationship is there where in that mood of affection you can actually help that person, you would actually do it. But if that relationship is not there, you may witness and make a distance, keep a distance. That, you know, person senior to him, his mentor, his guru will actually deal with that. Hmm. Another point, Bhakti Saraswati Thakur actually makes the point that he says, when do we see faults in others? When the faults are there within us. Atmavan manyeche jagat. If the fault is not there within us, we may not even notice the fault in others. A greedy person will see everyone else greedy. Envious person will see everyone else envious. You know? So when we are seeing faults in others, not only we maintain respect and the points I made earlier, but also we become introspective and say like, why am I seeing this? Maybe that anartha is there within me. So let me see how I can work on that anartha. Right? So maintaining this mood that we are reading in this verse for other living entities, at the same time becoming more introspective in our devotion, in our anarthas. Okay.
Yes. Just thank you so much. Just a follow up, like let's say like you're running some program or something, and people are doing different things, and if you have to see imperfections in order to, like, you know what I mean, like to give constructive feedback and to kind of make the program nice, so that, but um, you know what I mean? Like if you don't see imperfections, then how can you can improve so you have to have some vision of like seeing how can I improve this.
See, but you know, again, the point is like, yes, we will see for sure. But how we actually respond, that's the main thing. Like, what are we thinking in our heart? Are we thinking low of that person? Are we
Mm.
criticizing that person? Are we having inimical feelings to that person? Are we envious of that person? Or are we respectful of that person? Or we are affectionate to that person? How they have, you know, particularly for seva, like we are all working together and we are doing a seva for Radha Golokananda, then naturally we want to give the best to Radha Golokananda. And in that mood of giving the best, we may have to see that, okay, this person is doing this seva, but you know, maybe if it is done in another way, it would actually be a better seva. But we also, you know, have to be uh, appreciative of their mood of doing it. But if it's like definitely like a fault, then we can actually help them. Mhm.
Thank you.
I mean, the whole point is what's in our heart. Is our antakaran actually purified or not? Is enviousness, greed, inimical feelings there in our heart? Okay. Any other comments on this section?
Prabhuji, I have, if you can clarify 329.26. Is the differentiation or discrimination at the bodily level, like between a human and a animal, or between different classes of human beings, or is it more on the aspects of how they are doing things? Is it everything, or is it more just bodily?
Like particularly in 26, the emphasis is on the differentiation, saying that, yeah, I experience pain, but the other people do not experience pain. So yes, I have some suffering. I have some, but we are not seeing the suffering in others. Like that's the main emphasis of the verse. But the differentiation, let's do the next section, Mati, because because
Okay.
actually he makes a gradation in the next. Yes, all living entities are there, but there is a gradation. And based on the gradation, we have to see how that dan and man is given to all living entities. So let's do the next section and then we can come back to your question.
So could I say no empathy? Like
Yeah,
not having empathy is a big factor.
yeah,
Okay.
Prabhuji, I want a clarification. I really like the point that you said that we should even respect others who are criticizing us because they are bringing us close to Krishna. But worshipping those who uh, criticize us uh, is the point is that because we are seeing them non-different from Krishna, that's why.
Yeah, the aspect of yes, Paramatma is still in their heart, right? Paramatma is still in their heart. So that point is there. So I made this point from Vishnacharya Thakur. He makes this point that even those who criticize, we respect, we worship in the sense that yes, Paramatma is still there in the heart. It's not that they're criticizing that Paramatma is not there in the heart. No, Paramatma is still there. And again, based on our level where we are, if someone is constantly criticizing us and that is actually discouraging us on our path of bhakti, then you have to maintain your distance. And this is there even within Vaishnava circles. So that's why last class we made this point that even within Vaishnavas, we have to make a distinction of who we associate, and the association has to be Swajatiya. Those who are affectionate to us, those who have similar mood to us, right? And those who are senior to us. Those are 3 points of Swajatiya, right? So that's the association. So again, we have to be, I mean, see how the person's association is making us feel. If the criticism is just discouraging us, then we may have to maintain a distance. But if we are at that level, we are that advanced that a criticism comes and we are like, oh, thank you, I really needed that. But if we come to that level, then then we are progressing in our bhakti.
Hare, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, I have a small question on this. So, when you say that when someone criticizes us, and we should take it as a constructive feedback. One thing which I recall is I think there is a story which comes in Bhagavatam, Jad Bharat and Rahugan story. So I think there is a instance in there where even Jad. So what I'm trying to say is like it's not easy to practice this, taking the criticism as a constructive feedback, or even Jad Bharat got hurt by Rahugan's words, like at least for a moment. Isn't it that maybe I'm like recollecting it wrong, but there is a instance where when he's carrying the
Yeah.
palanquin,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Bec-
for a moment, and then I think it's probably said in the commentaries. I may be recollecting it wrong, but it's said in the commentaries that even like the elevated devotees sometimes may feel like that piercing in the heart, like when someone like criticizes or something like that. So but I may have to like refer to.
But again, the point is what? So even elevated devotee, okay. Like I have to check the section because before that, Jad Bharat is always described as Avaduta.
Right.
Others criticize him. They actually,
Right.
actually urinating on him, and like
Right.
yeah, he was like totally, Avaduta. So if that, I don't know if that section, I have to check that if that he felt something. But even if he's felt,
Yeah.
the point is like, we may not have so much control on how we feel.
Right.
But once it comes, then how do we process it? That's the main point. So after it, then he actually gave instructions to King Raghunan, and then
Right.
Raghunan realized, oh, he's so advanced, and then accepted him as guru. So how the flow goes, we see that he was still in his heart was like actually he wouldn't have given instructions to Raghunan if he actually thought, oh, this is criticizing, I should just,
Right. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying.
Hey, Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah.
Gopinath.
Yeah,
Gopinath.
I think it's these verses are I was reflecting it's challenging to practice within devotees, but I think it's more challenging when we are working with people, outside as well as, other religious organizations, outside of even Hinduism. So that becomes like we are trying to practice some of these aspects like friendly behavior, respect, presence in the heart, but sometimes we see people who are like pretty much animical, what we see in Bangladesh and other places, right? So how do we deal with it? That becomes quite challenging to practice these three verses.
Mm. Yeah. Is that a question? Are you?
The question is, how do we
But
practice it? Yeah.
how do you practice it? Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is not easy. I mean, Kapila Dev's, his whole point here is how do you actually come with that equal vision? You continue your aspects of bhakti, you do your swadharma, and you develop the attitude where we are trying to see, okay, Krishna is in the heart, Krishna is in the heart, Krishna is in the heart. Even though he may be doing something horrible, but Krishna is still in his heart. So I respect Krishna in his heart. I may not respect the action, but I respect that Krishna that he's a part and parcel of Krishna. How do we practice beyond that?
Prabhuji, this Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, this is actually 3:16:11, but in this verse, Brahmana is used by the Lord. Just I am controlled by you, I am controlled by those who worship the Brahmanas who have offended others.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we are seeing that they are part and parcel of Krishna. They're not different from Krishna.
Yes. So that's even more, right, than the point that even Brahmana, if they criticize, you should still respect them. So, coming to Gopinath Charya's point, I mean, it is so if someone is doing, I mean, like if you see Prabhupada's mood, right? So how with Mayavadis, like Prabhupada is always so heavy. We see it again and again in purport, lectures, Mayavadi, like Prabhupada is just like smashing the philosophy, right? So, yes, he's smashing the philosophy, but when there was a dealing, I forget this, I heard an incident when Prabhupada was dealing with a Mayavadi, I think in the Juhu incident. He was still talking to him in a friendly mood, even though he was a Mayavadi. So his dealing was with him was still very cordial, though he was like totally against the philosophy. you know. So I mean, you mentioned Bangladesh also. Like, I mean, when there's so strong, like oppression and you're doing all this violence, then I mean, at that moment we can see that these people are acting out of ignorance, but that doesn't mean that we do not do anything to stop it. In the sense, like, why are the four varnas there? Like here, Kapil Dev is also saying that, okay, act according to your varna. And according to the proper system, that should be Kshatriya to actually stop injustice, to stop the injustice. So, and that's why the varnashram is, one way it is essential for the proper working of the society. the Kshatriya. So, the problem is because the Varnashram is now messed up, hence we may be like, maybe that's not our, we are not Kshatriyas, but we may have the feeling, and because Kshatriyas are not doing something, we feel like, oh, someone should do something about it. And we feel like, oh, let's do something, but it may not be our thing. Then we have to think that, okay, how can I, in this society which is imperfect, there's no Varnashram, what can I do so that the right people can do the right thing there? You know. So yeah, I mean the lack of a nation system actually makes things quite difficult. So, but yeah, I mean we have to like practically for us like okay, we want to develop that vision. So yes, how Prabhupada also quotes the point: hate the sin, not the sinner. Right? Hate the sin, not the sinner. So similarly, we have to try to follow that. So, any a few thoughts? I don't know if that's
Yeah, thank you.
okay. So, any other point?
Oh, one question, Prabhuji. Like, sometimes killing is unavoidable. Probably just when we are even cutting the grass in the yard, we can see so many flies are coming up. We don't know how many we are killing. Part of that. So
Yes, Prabhu. Actually, I'm seeing Prabhupada talks about that. Did we think one of the later purports or somewhere here Prabhupada talks about that? Um, and I'll come to that. When one of the purports Prabhupada talks about this, he says, did I miss it? Let me see. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, in 23, Prabhu, in the purport, Prabhupada talks about it. But I didn't mention that. So Prabhupada there, he actually says the vegetables also have life, right? So we are killing vegetables. Like, this is often like when we actually, talk about like, being vegetarian, then the challenge comes what? Even vegetables you're killing. So we are killing animals, you're killing vegetables. What's the problem with that, right? And then the point is, yes, jiva se jivanam. Right? We have to survive on other living entities. We cannot eat plastic. We cannot eat some matter. We have to eat other living entities. But where there is minimum violence, that's what we actually do. And then living entity, yeah. So wherever there's first Prabhupada makes the point that when you're taking the fruits, you're not actually killing the plant. Right? You take an apple, you're not killing the apple plant. That's the first point. So we see how the system itself is very minimum violence in that case. Mm. And then some things which we cannot avoid, we cannot avoid. But when you're taking plants, yes, we are taking the fruits, but we are offering to Krishna, so they're getting benefit. So using everything and everyone in Krishna service, that is our formula. And as we cannot completely avoid violence, but as minimum as we can. So that's the point. In 23, purport Prabhupada makes the point. Okay, so let's continue. We're going to go to the next section.
one more question, Prabhuji. Like, so you said, right? Like, someone will say, Narayana is there in every living entity. We should treat them as a god. Like, yeah, this is very often we can hear it. So what is the right way to convince Prabhu?
So point is God is in every living entities, right? That doesn't mean that the person is God. I mean, we have to go back to the philosophy and say that, yes, God is in your heart, but there is a difference between Atma and Paramatma, right? If Paramatma is your heart, but we already see there is Atma and there is Paramatma. They are not one. They are not one. And Bhagavad Gita, we can start quoting and say, like, even second chapter, text 11, Krishna says, Na tva evam jatu nasam, na tvam neme janadeva. There was never a time when you did not exist, nor I, nor in the future will there ever be a time when you will not exist and I will not exist. Clearly, Krishna is making a point. And starting of Bhagavad Gita, there is no question of they becoming one. Right? So again, you quote Bhagavad Gita and say the point. And also Prabhupada talks about like, if you are God, then why are you having a toothpick? Why is your tooth hurting? Why do you have stomach pain? Why do you have disease? If you're God, you're the all-powerful, why are you actually suffering here? Why are you forced to go through so many things which you do not want to go through? What is this concept of God? Right? So here you're suffering, right? You know, but but God is beyond all this. We see Krishna, who is the supreme enjoyer. You know, he's not suffering. He's not forced to go through birth, old age, disease, death, unlike us, and so on and so forth. Like so many points we can, elaborate on that. Like throughout Prabhupada's purports, again and again, he's giving this point. It's like, I mean, it's one way, like, to understand that we are not God is not a big thing. It's like, if I'm God, like, how can I be God? Okay, so let's continue. 28.
Thank you very much.
Text 28. Jiva Shrestaya Jivanam Tata Prana Brita Shubhe Tata Sachita Pravaras Tataschendriya Vrittayaha.
Living entities are superior to inanimate objects, O Blessed Mother, and among them, living entities who display life symptoms are better. Animals with developed consciousness are better than them, and better still are those who have developed sense perception. Hare Krishna.
So, see the next session from 28 all the way to 36. So, Kapila Dev actually made the point that yes, we should have equal vision. But does that equal vision mean that we lose discrimination? No. And hence, Kapil Dev is actually making the point. Equal vision does not mean that a devotee loses discrimination. When to be friendly, when to give charity, to whom to give respect. All these things we still need a system of discrimination. And hence here, he's going to go step by step, higher, 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 right? So I'll just give an overview based on Subodhini. And then you can just see the chart, and we'll be reading next few slokas. You'll see the gradation starting from low all the way to high. Right? So if you see my screen, so here, if you see gradation of living entity, it starts with inanimate objects, then goes higher, higher, then comes to entities with sense perception, and then humans with 2 legs, then brahmanas, and finally it comes all the way to a devotee. Right? So basically, he's saying yes, everyone has an equal vision, but it does not mean that we lose discrimination. Okay. So now in this 28, what he's saying, he starts off with a jivanam. A jivanam means no jiva, means no consciousness. So inanimate objects. But who is above inanimate objects? Jiva, living entities. Now here he's okay. So and then prana britaha. So anything with living symptoms that is higher than inanimate. Above than that, sachittaha with developed consciousness. And beyond that, indriya vrittaha with developed sense perception. So here the examples are given. Inanimate objects, we know, like anything, like a table, inanimate object. But above that, jivaha, that is like fresh grass. So if you see grass, as such, it appears that there is no life in it. You know, right? This consciousness is so covered. But grass is superior than, because grass also grows, is superior than the dead matter. Then above that is, Prabhupada talks, I mean, he gives the example of living stones. And he says sometimes hills and mountains also grow. Maybe we don't have this experience, but he makes the point that even stones are living. I've heard that in when they make deities, particularly the story of like Narsimhadev, how the Narsimha deity in Mayapur was actually made. The person actually, they went and they searched, they said like, we cannot make the deity out of any stone. We need a stone that is living. So there are stones with life, and that's what is referred here. That above the grass is actually stones which are living. But above that is what? And then it's like further, Vishwanath Thakur is saying, above the stones with life is the mountains, which have ears and teeth. Mountains which have ear and teeth. Right? And he said, like, we hear this, that, what's the story? that the mountain had wings and then Indra actually cut off the wings of the mountains? Anyone knows the story? And then there is a story somewhere about how mountains used to fly, but Indra he got angry and he cut off the wings. That means like mountains had wings. So that is next higher. And then the fourth Indriya Vritta is trees. Trees, they have the awareness of like sprouting, right? They sprout and trees grow. So that's the first illusion. Right? And Prabhupada makes the point. Tiger does not mean that, okay, there is a tiger, that you actually go and embrace a tiger. No, you still have to make discrimination, right? But Prabhupada actually here in this purport, he actually says, but you can give prasadam to a tiger. Prabhupada is saying that in the purport. So you can give prasadam. Don't embrace a tiger, but you give prasadam to a tiger. Like what? Give prasadam to a tiger? And he says, Prabhupada said, saintly people in the jungles, they used to actually supply foodstuffs to even animals. So that the animals don't eat them, they supply foodstuff. Right? And then Prabhupada also makes a point that certain animals which are considered unclean, they are actually stay outside. Don't come inside the house. We have to make this distinction. Inside the house, we have nice deity worship. How can we allow unclean animals to come inside? Right? So, okay, 29. So we're just going to go higher and higher in this gradation.
Kutrapi sparshavedhibhya pravararasavedinaha tebhyo gandhavida shrishtas tata shabda vido varaha.
Hare Krishna. Among the living entities who have developed sense perception, those who have developed the sense of taste are better than those who have developed only the sense of touch. Better than them are those who have developed the sense of smell. And better still are those who have developed the sense of hearing.
So here he's making it further. So sparsha vedivi, touch sensation. So above the the last we read was trees. So here also it starts with touch sensation. So trees have touch sensation, right? So he gives an example of trees. But above the trees, those who can perceive taste, rasa vedinaha. What's the example? Fish is given as the example. Above that, smell, the bees, and then sound, serpents. So he's giving gradation higher and higher. Prabhupada in the purport, he says, the science of anthropology is not new. 5,000 years before, Kapil Dev is actually talking about the science of anthropology. Text 30.
Those who can smell are what animals?
Bees,
And then here is
serpents. So Prabhupada gives certain examples, but Vishwanath Thakur gives slightly different examples. So touch sensation, he says trees. Those who perceive taste, he says worms. Those who smell, he actually says same, insect bees, because bees can smell honey, right? They go and they smell flower and they get the honey. And then sound, he says water insect. Yeah, same, serpent, yeah, kind of similar. Like Prabhupada in the purport, he says like how serpent, they hear the frog croaking, right? And they hear it and then they know this is my food. And they go and they eat the frogs. Text 30.
Rupabheda vidastatra tatastro bhayato dataha tesham bahu padashrishthas chatushpadas tato dvipad.
Better than those living entities who can perceive sound are those who can distinguish between one from the another. Better than them are those who have developed upper and lower sets of teeth, and better still are those who have many legs. Better than them are the quadrupeds, and better still are the human beings.
And in Bhagavatam, we are studying all about like different living entities. So here he says, better than those who can hear sound is who can distinguish the form. The example Prabhupada gives is certain birds can distinguish form. Then above that is actually those who have upper and lower teeth. Above that is many legs, like wasp in many legs. Then above that is Chatupadaha, four-legged, and then Dvipadaha, two-legged. And Prabhupada, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes a point here. He says, like, mountains like Govardhan, plants like Tulsi, they are not in this category. Plants like Tulsi, they are worshipable, right? So we still have to make a distinction. We cannot put the trees, Tulsi, in this category, what we are reading here. Though this is a gradation, Tulsi will not fit here because they are, spiritual in that way. So we have to make that distinction. 31.
Prabhu, it seems like some of them as it's going back and forth, like it goes to insects and it goes to back, like it's not exactly following, how the gradation of the evolution of how it goes, like higher entity is fish, then because he said birds and then upper and lower teeth, and then many legs, it was back to insects. And I was like, right? That's like a lower.
Let's see.
Because you said plants, then fish, then bees. It seems like lower than fish, and then serpents, then birds again, then birds, and then upper and lower teeth, and then again many legs. You said back to insects, so then four-legged.
Prabhupada gives an example of wasp in that. Let me see. Oh, yeah. So here also Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says those with many legs, such as bees, are superior. Should be understood they have two sets of teeth since they can cut flowers or wood. Four-legged animals are superior, and two-legged human beings are superior to them. Those beings later in the list are in general superior because of superior quality. So the main point here is actually the distinction is like in evolution, we actually say, okay, this is how the species are evolving. Here, the distinction is more in terms of their qualities. Like how we are saying, oh, someone has a quality of touch, someone has a quality of seeing, So the distinction, what is the gradation based on? The qualities of these different living entities. So maybe a wasp that way has a bee has more qualities than another insect. So hence it's repeating back because bees can extract honey. So in that way.
Like wasp would be higher than a bird in this case because a wasp has many legs and the bird can distinguish forms. So it's like, I guess you can't really see it.
Yeah, you have to see the quality wise, Okay, 31.
It's 31. Tato varnashcha chatvarastesham brahmana uttamaha brahmaneshvapi vedogyo yartagyo vyadikastataha.
Among human beings, the society which is divided according to quality and work is best. And in that society, the intelligent men who are designated as Brahmanas are best. Among the Brahmanas, one who has studied the Vedas is the best. And among the Brahmanas who have studied the Vedas, one who knows the actual purport of the Veda is the best.
So here, now we come to human two-legged. So in human being, what is the gradation? Varna Chattvara. It starts off with society. When the society is divided according to quality and work, those who follow Varnashram, they are the best. Among the human beings, they are better. And then above that, Brahmana Uttama. Of all the Varnas, who is the best? The best Brahmana. Then above, in the Brahmana, who is the best? Vedagya, who knows the Vedas. Then Arthagya, who actually knows the purpose behind the Vedas, right? So Krishna makes a point that in Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, the one who knows the purpose behind the Vedas, right? He knows, right? And he says Veda Vada Rataha, because they do all these so many religious activities without knowing the purpose. But one who knows the purpose, he's better than them, right? So Vedagya knows the Vedas, but above that is one who knows the purpose behind the Vedas. Right? And Prabhupada in purport, he talks about how Varnashram is talked in Bhagavad Gita, and here Srimad Bhagavatam also, we are seeing a reference to Varnashram. Now the system is messed up, but that does not mean that the system is wrong. The system is right. Right? And unless there's a division, there will always be confusion. Right? Unless the Varnashram is established, like how Prabhu was making the point. Like we feel, oh, we should do something. But if you're not Kshatriya, what can you do? Hence all these problems actually come. 32.
Arthagyat samshayat chetha tata shreyan svakarmakrit mukta sangastato bhuyan adugdha dharmam atmanaha.
Better than the Brahmana who knows the purpose of the Vedas is he who can dispel all doubts, and better than him is the one who strictly follows the Brahmanical principles. Better than him is one who is liberated from all material contamination, and better than him is a pure devotee who executes devotional service without expectation of a reward.
Hmm. So here, so we talked about Arthagya, one who knows the purpose behind the Vedas. Above that is Samshaya Chitta, one who actually is clear of all doubts and he can actually cut off others' doubts. Better than that, Swakarmakrit, one who executes prescribed duties. Above that, Mukta Sangha, those who are actually liberated. And then best among that, Dharman Atmanaha, who is actually engaged in devotional service. So Prabhupada here in this purport, he talks about who is a Acharya? Acharya is one who should know the purpose behind the Vedas, right? It's very important because, many times like people may come and say like, oh, this part of the Vedas says this. This part of the Vedas says this. How can you explain? That is contradiction. But do you know what is the purpose of the whole Vedas? As soon as you know the purpose of the whole Veda, then all the contractions can be fit in place. That you're saying this, but this is meant for people who are in first standard. This is meant for people who are in fifth grade, and so on. Right? We can always explain if you know the purpose. So Acharya is one who knows the purpose, first thing. Second, he actually employs the principles which are laid in the Vedas. He follows the Vedas, but the purpose. Second point. Third point, he actually teaches others how to actually follow the purpose of the Vedas. Third point, right? And fourth point, Prabhupada says, he actually executes devotional service with no expectation of result. Right? And not even the desire for elevation. I'm doing bhakti, why? Just to please Krishna. Just to please Krishna. That is an acharya. So 4 points Prabhupada says. And then even here, Prabhupada also, he says, even among Vaishnavas, he says there are 3 categories. One who knows the science of Krishna, but who does not preach. Is lower category, Kanishta. Then second Prabhupada says, he knows the science of Krishna and then he preaches. That is second class. Then third is, he preaches and he sees every living entity, everything in a relationship with the absolute truth and the absolute truth in everything. He sees Krishna everywhere and sees everything in Krishna. So that is the highest. So here he talks of 3 divisions, Prabhupada says. Knows the science, unable to preach. He knows the science, preaches, and then he preaches and sees Krishna everywhere and sees everything in Krishna. And then text 33, he'll come to the highest of all. Right? So we talked of a devotee. Now further, it is elaborating this aspect of a pure devotee. 33.
Tasmad mayarpita shesha kriyarthatma nirantaraha mayarpitatmana pumso mayi sanyasta karmanaha.
Hare Krishna. Therefore, I do.
I forgot to learn. Na pashyami param bhutam akartu samadarshanat.
Sorry. Hare Krishna. Therefore, I do not find a greater person than he who has no interest outside of mine, and who therefore engages and dedicates all his activities and all his life, everything unto me without cessation. Hare Krishna.
So this is the best. Who is the best? The highest of all? Mai Arpita Ashesha. He has offered everything to me. What is that? His actions, Kriya, Artha, his wealth, Atma, his entire life. He's offered his life, his wealth, his actions, everything in service of Krishna. And how is it? Offering Nirantara, without cessation. Right? Unmotivated, uninterrupted, right? Uninterrupted. Without cessation, he's offered everything in service of Krishna. Mai arpita atmana. He's offered his mind also to Krishna. Man mana bhava mad bhakto, right? Offered his mind. Mai sanyasya karmana. Sarva dharma paritajya mam ekam shanu. He has given up all that karma, sarva dharma, which is actually not related to surrender to Krishna. He gives up all that. Na paschami param bhuvat. I do not see any living entity who is greater than this. This is a pure devotee. right? So yes, we actually want to give respect to everyone. We don't want to disregard them. Don't want to criticize, but still we make a distinction and we find who is the highest of all human beings, highest of all living entities, highest of human being, and coming to a point of a pure devotee. And it is this pure devotee that we want to associate with, we want to serve, we want to worship, right? And then here, Prabhupada in the purport, he actually quotes Bhagavad Gita 6:32, and he says, Atmau pamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yo arjuna sukham cha vadi vadukam yogi sa yogi paramo mataha. So in 6:32, Krishna is saying, Sa yogi paramo mataha. Who is the highest of all yogis? That one who actually sees the true equality in all beings in both their happiness and distress. Right? So the purport is very nice. Prabhupada says, share my screen. The purport is so nice. So this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text number 32. So here. So Prabhupada, so he is a perfect yogi who by comparison to his own self sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and distress. Right? And Prabhupada in the purport he says, one who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. So this is a point about that empathy, what we talked about earlier. He is aware how everyone's happiness and distress by his own experience. And then he understands that the cause of distress of every living entity is forgetfulness of Krishna. And cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer. Right? The perfect yogi knows that the living entities who are conditioned by the modes of nature is subject to threefold miseries due to forgetfulness of their relationship to Krishna. And because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world and he is the dearest servitor of the Lord. Right? So this person who sees happiness and distress of every living entity and knows that the cause of happiness and the cause of distress, right, is actually cause of distress is forgetfulness of Krishna, and one who actually goes about and gives Krishna to others, he is the best. And Prabhupada said in the purport, he is the dearest servant, and there is no one greater than him. Nacha tasman manusheshu, no one greater than him. Right? So that is the highest person. Okay. And Prabhupada here again, he actually smashes Mayavadis. And Mayavadis, they have poor fund of knowledge. To see oneself as one with Lord, right? They say, yes, Lord is everywhere, therefore everyone is Lord. No, that's not right understanding. They said, as soon as one sees, Prabhupada says, service means there has to be servant, there has to be master, and there has to be the exchange, the devotional service. Right? And then akartaha, no proprietorship means what? He never does anything for his personal account. He does everything for the satisfaction. What is Krishna's desire? What will please Krishna? That's what I'm going to do. That's the perfect. Okay. So that concludes this 33.
Prabhuji, I have a quick question, maybe clarification. Can you emphasize on what it means? He who has no interest outside of mine. So, what is the interest of the Lord? What is the main interest of the Lord?
According to Prabhupada's purport, the main interest of the Lord is to get everyone back to Godhead, get free from all suffering. See, the Lord is like we hear so much about the Lord being so merciful, so compassionate. So imagine the Lord's heart. He's seeing everyone suffering, and the Lord is thinking, oh, everyone is suffering. I just, my desire is that everyone just comes back to me. Why they have to suffer? They are all my own amsha. They are all my part. Let them come back to me. Right? So, what is the desire of the Lord? Well, we have to help everyone come back. We have to see everyone as part and parcel of Krishna and somehow or other help them in their spiritual journey. If they're not willing to take, give them prasadam. Give them, somehow or other, like connect them to Krishna. Say Hare Krishna or, something. That's Prabhupada's mood of understanding the mood of the Lord. That We have to give Krishna to others. And to give Krishna to others, we ourselves have to become good devotees. If we are not, engaged in devotional service, how will we give Krishna? If we ourselves are struggling, how can we benefit others? Mm. So we ourselves have to take up the path of bhakti seriously and give bhakti to others. And that's the desire of Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Actually, there are two more verses in this section. Let's see, time 8:56. And we'll come back and we'll continue. So there are like two more verses in this section of gradations. We'll come to the topmost, but there's further two more verses. And then the last aspect is another question that Devati asked. Okay. Okay. Any quick comments? And then we'll take a break. Any comments, questions?
Prabhuji, when we were reading that, this is better than this is better than this. So a feeling of pride may come, oh, I am the best. But in the end, it comes back to a pure devotee who executes devotional service without expectation of reward is the better. Anyone can be that, right? In spite of being Brahmana, Shudra, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, anyone can be a pure devotee of the Lord.
Yeah. I mean, so we went through his gradation. And what was the reason of going through his gradation? To actually see like the 4 points that Kapila Deva said. Dan, man, charity, respect, friendly behavior, equal vision. These 4. How do we actually see this in terms of different living entities? Yes, anyone can become a devotee, but as soon as anyone becomes a devotee, he's already in that highest class.
Exactly.
But we still, like those who are not, we see this, and then we say, okay, I want to associate with a pure devotee. Okay. Any other points?
It is very easy to we can check our own progress. If we still have that pride, then we should have a reality. I should have a reality check.
That's a good point.
I was reflecting on how this the idea of we see everyone equally, but at the same time we make distinctions. I think it's important that we because like the Mayavadi concept is everyone's equal, and then everyone, or even the modern, like you would say in the Western world, like everyone's just equal, and you it's almost like you'll hesitate to say some distinctions, but there is a variety, and that we have to be aware of that. And there are higher levels of consciousness that we have to, we just can't see, oh, everyone's equal and just everyone's one. There are different varieties. And it reminds me of a story my father says when with Srila Prabhupada, he asked a question to Srila Prabhupada. I can't understand the statement in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, everyone can take up Krishna consciousness, the women, the Shudras, but then the next verse, Krishna says, but the Brahmanas, they're worshipable. That's 9th chapter verse. And then my father asked Prabhupada, how is that? It seems like he's saying the Brahmanas are better than, because inside my father is kind of feeling like, it sounds like, you're putting distinction that somebody's better than others. But Srila Prabhupada said, first Srila Prabhupada was a little heavy with him. He said, you don't understand. He said, you think that everyone's equal? That means you're the same as, and he began to name different sannyasis there. Do you think you're the same as this sannyasi? You think you're the same as this sannyasi? And my father felt like sinking in the ground, because Prabhupada is kind of like chastising him. Because that kind of feeling in our heart that, oh, we all should, that kind of Prabhupada is smashing that point that there are varieties and there are elevated devotees that we should respect. But then Prabhupada, he looked at his garland and he said, if I say the leaves in this garland, because in the garland there was all kinds of flowers and leaves, he said, if I say the leaves in this garland are really nice and this flower is really nice, what to speak of the rose? Now do you understand? So then my father understood that the concept, and Prabhupada then took a piece of the garland and threw it to my father, and it just reminded me of that story of how everyone is equal in the sense that Krishna is in everyone's heart, but there are distinctions, and that we can't just lump everything as one, you know.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
It was like today I learned criticism is so dangerous than enviousness and hatred. I have to be very careful. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Amazing. Bhagavatam is teaching us so much, how to deal with that. Okay, so let's take a 5 minutes break and come back and continue. Thank you so much. Shri Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Namo Hare Hare Krishna
Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. I was thinking like this during this. I was just getting a thought of like how Srila Prabhupada, like how, when we see like these advanced devotees, what we are reading in Bhagavatam, we actually see that in their character. Like we talked about how, seeing the Lord everywhere. We talked of Vasudeva the leper. We see that in the example of Srila Prabhupada, how that person, like Prabhupada when he was staying in a loft, and the other person, like Prabhupada was basically like sharing a room with a drug addict, and then there was just like one partition, Prabhupada one side, the other side was this person, and how he was taking drugs, and And then slowly he was like kind of improving. Prabhupada was like really had that mood that, oh, maybe he'll become my first American disciple. He was really with that mood that this person will become my first disciple. And then, somehow he like, once he took some LSD, came and he was actually going to kill Prabhupada. And Prabhupada had to just run, literally run from the place. And how Lilamrit actually talks about that Prabhupada just like ran away and this person was like kind of chasing him. And so middle of the night, Prabhupada was in the streets, and then finally he talked to another person he knew, and finally that night he found an accommodation. And you see like how later on it is said that I heard that the same person came, who was trying to kill Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was immediately compassionate to that person, you know. And he was saying that, oh, he's come back, so maybe like, he can. And we see that mood, and it's like that level of compassion that's like even hard for us to imagine that how someone can have that level. And that's what we are seeing in Bhagavatam. And that's what Kapil Dev is saying, that it is when that level of compassion comes, then when we hear the qualities of Krishna, our mind will be drawn towards Krishna. So how it is so important to develop that mood, just to come to the point of Krishna accepting us as his own. So, and I was going back, I was looking at the point that of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, where he's making the point of that uh, those who criticize, right? Right. In answer to this is said that on the contrary, they should worship those living entities with gifts as much as they can. And when I read that, I was thinking of Prabhupada, like, these people, like that boy who flipped out, he was trying to kill Prabhupada, and then what did Prabhupada? When he came back, then Prabhupada was trying to give him the gift of Krishna consciousness. So here we see like they should worship those living entities with gifts as much as they can. And Prabhupada we see in that mood. So it's amazing that you really develop that appreciation for these elevated devotees that we are seeing, that it's not just like a theoretical concept. It is, we are seeing examples of Prabhupada and Vasudev Leper and all our elevated acharyas who have that mood of compassion. So okay, so we have text number 33 or 34.
Manasaitani bhutani pranamir bahumanayan Ishvaro jiva kalaya pravishto bhagavaniti.
Krishna. Such a perfect devotee offers respects to every living entity because he is under the firm conviction that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has entered the body of every living entity as the super soul or control.
So finally, it's made 33. We already came to a point of who's the best of all. And the main points, he's offered his actions, wealth, life, soul, and mind. And he's given up any Sarva Dharma Parityaja. He's already done all that. And then he says, like, akartu. He does only those activities which Krishna desires. That is the best. And then what is the vision of that person? And again, we're coming back to 34, where he says that with manasa etani bhutani, with his mind, such a person, he what? Pranamate, right? Pranamate. So there we saw worship, and here we see what? Pranamate. He actually offers respects. He actually does pranam to every living entity. And then bahu manyan, with great regard, right? Ishvara Kalaya Bhagwan Pravishtaha, knowing that the Supreme Personality as God has entered into the body of everyone. So it is like one point is you're seeing everyone in equal vision, but see the person, what is his vision? He is actually offering his obeisances with great regard. And we hear about this. I think when Amarendra Prabhu was here, he was making this point that he was telling about how Radhanath Swami Maharaj, when he has to he had like a bunch of emails, like so many emails to reply. And he asked the servant to actually, every email start off with, please accept my humble obeisances, all grace to Srila Prabhupada. And Amarendra Prabhu was saying that how this devotee, because he was like typing, Maharaj was dictating, he was typing it out. So what he started doing was just like he made a template, like copy paste, right? And then Maharaj saw that. He's like, what is this? He said, like, anyway, every letter is there, right? So copy paste. please accept my humble obeisance as your servant. It's like just copy paste that template and then you write the main text. And Maharaj said, no, don't do that. And then he did something else where it was like just like he just used to start and it used to just come on its own. Maharaj said, no. When I say please accept my humble obeisances, I am offering my obeisances to the feet of that Vaishnava. And that's the mood. Like in Ranhan Maharaj, he's like so elevated Vaishnava. He's offering obeisances to everyone he's writing. And here we see that within his mind, he offers respect with great regard to every living entity. Every living entity, knowing that Krishna is actually in their heart. And then here Prabhupada starts off and he says, a perfect devotee is one who actually accepts every body as the temple of the Lord. Every body is a temple of Krishna is right there, right? And since devotee offer respect to temples in full knowledge, like when you go to a temple, immediately, they say like when you enter a temple, first you offer obeisances to the temple because this is where the Lord resides, right? So similarly, every body is a temple. Right? Vaisheshika Prabhu gives this name of tabernacle. He says a tabernacle is, if you see word to word, it means a moving temple of the Lord. And he says like everyone is a tabernacle in the sense a moving temple of the Lord. They're all temples. Everyone is a temple because Krishna is residing. And imagine seeing everyone with that respect. Prabhupada actually says how Mayavadi, they say Paramatma has entered into every living entity, therefore the Jiva has become Paramatma. And then Prabhupada, he says, if a person enters into a room, does he become the room? It's like such a, see, it almost sounds stupid that you say like Paramatma entered in the heart of every living entity, therefore the Jiva has become Paramatma. What sense does this make, right? So similarly, Prabhupada is saying like someone enters a room, he becomes a room? No, he's still there, right? So therefore this Daridra Narayan is a blasphemous statement. It's blaspheming Krishna. So, okay, 35.
Text 35. Bhakti yogascha yogascha maya manavyaduritah yayor ekatare naiva purusha purusham rajet.
My dear mother, O daughter of Manu, a devotee who applies the science of devotional service and mystic yoga in this way can achieve the abode of the Supreme Person simply by that devotional service. Hare Krishna.
So here this is concluding this whole section where he's actually saying, not only this chapter, but even previous chapter, he's saying, Bhakti yogascha yogascha. So, O daughter of Manu, Manavi, that I have already explained what Bhakti Yoga, right? Which chapter? 25 and then now 29, right? And then Astanga Yoga and Yoga. Yoga here, Sankhya Yoga, Astanga Yoga, which is that chapter 26, 27, 28. So I have already Udiritaha, I have described all this to you. Ekatarena eva purusham vrajet. In this way, by either one of them, a person can achieve the Supreme Personality of God. Right? Why? Because even when we read about Sankhya, how Kapila Muni is actually explaining Sankhya in a very devotional perspective. Astanga Yoga, when the concept of dharana came, he said meditate directly on the form, each limb of the Lord. So either one takes up this Astanga Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga, Ekatarena Eva. Either of this, one will actually attain Purusham Rajat. One will actually get that person will get Purusham Rajat, will get directly darshan of the Lord. Right? So directly meet the Lord's form, full of consciousness. And so one way of understanding this is that when one actually takes up Astanga Yoga or Sankhya Yoga, he may actually, depending on the person, experience impersonal Brahman or Paramatma. Right? But still, that's an aspect of the Lord. And when he does bhakti, then he sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead full of consciousness as, Bhagwan. Right? So that is one aspect. The other aspect of understanding this is because all these lead to bhakti, Astanga Yoga, Sankhya Yoga leads to bhakti, therefore eventually they will see Krishna face to face. Right? So both ways we can actually understand. So Prabhupada also in the translation he gives one way, and the purport he actually talks about the other way. Right? So people, you're understanding both the points? Right? So one is where Bhakti Yoga is Bhagwan realization, Astanga and Jnana, Brahman and Paramatma, but both of those are aspects of the Lord, right? That is one way. And the second way is how these two lead to Bhakti, and hence one will see the Lord face to face. Okay. And then further, Prabhupada actually in the purport he says, Ashtanga Yoga, we already talked about how it is meditation on the form of Vishnu, right? Purusha Purusham Rajet. Right? The living entity goes to the Purusham, to the Supreme Personality. And Prabhupada here, what is the meaning of Purusha? When we talk of Purusha in terms of Prakriti, what does Purusha mean?
He's the enjoyer.
Purusha means enjoy, right? So now here it says Purusha Purusham Rajet. So both are Purushas. Who are Purusha? We are Purusha and the Lord is Purusha. Like we are Purusha in relationship to Prakriti. Right? Material nature, we are Purusha. We are actually superior to Prakriti. So that way we are Purusha. But there's a difference in the quality of enjoyment. Yes, we can, and Prabhupada gives the example, a poor man cannot enjoy as much as a rich man. A rich man has a lot of money. He'll buy good house, big car, right? Vamshi Gawal Prabhu, to your question also, Prabhupada is explaining here. Like, yes, okay, both are Purusha, but Lord is supreme enjoyer. He has thousands of Lakshmis serving him, right? And we cannot enjoy like the Lord because we don't have any opulence. Right? So poor man cannot enjoy as a rich man. Only if the poor man dovetails his desires and cooperates with the rich man, then he can enjoy. So if someone, a poor man is serving the rich man in all earnestness and selflessness, then rich man will say, okay, you come and stay in my house. You can serve me, inside the house. And that person may have a very big house. Now the poor man, now he's also got a big house. In the sense that he's staying in the big house because he's doing that service. So similarly, we as Purusha can enjoy only when we are actually dovetailing and cooperating with Krishna. Right? When we serve Krishna, then we can really enjoy as the original Purusha. Otherwise, we cannot enjoy. Right? So Jiva wants to enjoy by imitating Krishna, and that is actually Maya. That will never happen. You cannot enjoy in opposition to a Lord. That is not enjoyment at all. Right? Only when we dovetail our activities with the Lord in Bhakti Yoga, then we can actually really enjoy. So when we say the Natva Swarthagatim hi Vishnu, right? Prabhupada often quotes this, right? When people do not know what is a Swa Artha, what is the real benefit? You want to enjoy? Okay, serve Krishna, then you can enjoy. And even in the material world, you want to enjoy? Yes, that's the whole thing. That's why you're doing anything. Serve Krishna, then you can really enjoy. Otherwise, it's just like a dream state. What is that enjoyment? Negligible. Right? Okay. Now, 36.
Etad bhagavato rupam brahmana paramatmanaha param pradhanam purusham daivam karma vicheshtitam.
Hare Krishna translation. This Purusha, whom the individual soul must approach, is the eternal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as the Brahman and Paramatma. He is the transcendental chief personality, and his activities are all spiritual.
So, one may ask, so in the previous verse, he said, Kapil Dev is actually saying, one attains the Supreme Lord, Purusha, by this process. Why is Kapila Dev not saying me? Like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mam, right? He approaches me, he attains me. Why is Kapila Dev not saying me? Why is he saying a Purusha? Why is, he's not referring me? So, in answer to that, this verse is actually saying that Kapila Dev is actually making the point. He puts his forefinger on his chest and says, actually, the devotees will attain me, Bhagavan. You know. But the other people may attain Brahman, Gyanis may attain Brahman, Yogis may attain Paramatma, but all these are actually my form and all of them are beyond Prakriti. Right? So therefore it is Brahmana Paramatmana. Etad Bhagavato Rupam Brahmana Paramatmana. I am that Bhagwan that the devotees attain, and the Brahmana and Paramatma, the yogis and the Gyanis attain. Right? But all these are Param Pradhanam Purusham. All them are Param. They are all transcendental. And Pradhanam Purusham. But what is the highest? Pradhanam means the highest. Highest realization of all this. See, if you see the words Bhagwan, Brahmana, Paramatma. And then all these are Param. But then he says Pradhanam Purusham, which is the highest of all Purusha, the Bhagwan realization. Daivam Karma Vichishisam. And all his activities are Daiva. Janma Karma Chame Divyam. Right? Divyam, Daiva. So that's the point. And Prabhupada in purport, he just elaborates on this, how this Purusha, the Bhagwan feature, he is the origin of the impersonal Brahman, the Paramatma. What is Bhagavad Gita proof of the Lord being the source of Brahman and Paramatma?
Brahmanohi Pratishtaham.
Brahmano Ipatisam, I am the source of the Brahman, and Paramatma. Sarvasya Chaham Riddhi Sannivishta. I am seated in everyone's heart, right? And then 13th chapter, where he talks of Paramatma, right? So, all those. So, Krishna is the source. Now, so that completes the section, right? So, last two verses was what? Basically, he said, in these last 5 chapters, I've explained you Bhakti and Jnana and Astanga. And through all this, one can attain the Supreme Lord, whether the Brahman, Paramatma, and eventually Bhagwan. That Bhagwan realization is Pradhanam, is the highest of all. Okay? Everyone still with me? Yeah? You can hear me okay? Yeah, okay. So now the last section is the question that Devahuti is asked in text number 6. So text number 4 of this chapter. If you see 329.4, she's asked, can you describe the nature of time fearing which people perform pious activities? Right? So what is time? So that's the last section of this. Okay? The verses are quite straightforward. We'll continue. So 37 to 45 is all about time feature. Okay. So let's continue. 37.
Rupa Vedaspadam Divyam Kala Ityabhidhiyate Bhutanam Mahad Adinam Yato Bhina Drisham Bhayam.
Hare Krishna, the time factor who causes the transformation of the various material manifestations is another feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who does not know that the time is the same Supreme Personality is afraid of the time factor. Hare Krishna.
Rupa Bheda Aspadam. The cause of Rupa Bheda, the cause of the different forms is what? Divyam Kala. Kala is time. And what is time? Time is Divyam. Divyam means is another feature of the Supreme Personality of God. Abhidhyate Bhutanam. All living entities beginning from Brahma are all Drishyam if they have a separate vision between time and the Supreme Personality. If they see them as different, then they are fearful. What is the cause of fear in this material world?
Losing something.
Fear of losing.
Yeah.
And why do we have the fear of losing? What is the cause behind that? Okay, now we have something, but next moment we may not have that. So what is that? Time. Next moment, because now you have, in the future we may not have, and that's why we are fear. Right? So what is the cause of fear? Time. But if you see that time itself is actually Krishna. Time is a representation of Krishna. Then as soon as we have the concept that time is a representation of Krishna, then we become fearless. Right? So the Abhay Charan, Abhaya. How will you get Abhaya? When we see Krishna as time. Krishna has protected me. Krishna is there with me as Paramatma for all this time. So he will be there in the future. He will maintain me. He will protect me. He will take care of me. So when we see Krishna as time, then we are not fearful of anything. Because even when death comes, we see, Kalosmi, this is Krishna. Why should I be fearful? Right? So what is in Bhagavatam 11th canto, what does it say? The cause of fear is bhayam dvitiya bhiniveshata syad ishad apetasya viparyo smritihi. Whenever we see anything viparyo separate from Krishna, that's the cause of bhayam. As soon as we see everything in relationship to Krishna, then there is no cause of fear. Right? So that's the point here. Okay, next 38.
Yonta pravishya bhutani bhutar adya kilashrayah so vishvakyo diyagyo so kala kalayatam prabhu.
Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the enjoyer of all sacrifices, is a time factor and the master of all masters. He enters everyone's heart. He is support of everyone, and he causes every being to be annihilated by another.
What does Krishna do as time? Annihilates everything. Hmm. So here anta pravisya bhutani. It is this same Lord who is the manifestation of time. He enters into the heart of every living entity. Bhutai ati. He also annihilates all living entities. Right? This is only because of time we lose our body. Right? I often make this point that we may not have seen, but somewhere on the body there's an expiry date. Right? How you go to any product, you go to Indian store, they have like expiry date. They'll write it somewhere where no one can see where the expiry date is. Right? But it's there somewhere. So our body has expiry date. But who's given this? Krishna as time. Right? So time annihilates everything. In Queen Kunti's prayers, what does she say? She makes the point that Krishna, it is you who have manifested that time. And because of this manifestation of time, it is your mercy because it is making people realize that how we are not of this world. Because when we are trying to hold on to something and then time takes it away, then we realize that actually I can never hold on to something. I just recently heard this, like in Hindi. Okay, how would you say in Hindi, I have a particular object? Hindi speaking people, how would you say?
मेरे पास चैतन्य चरितामृता है.
Right? And how, if you say that mere paas ye hai, if I translate that back into English, I'll say, near me this object is. Because Mataji just said mere paas hai. What did I initially start off with? I asked Mataji to translate, I have this. And the speaker was making the point that even if you go back to Hindi, like the original being Sanskrit, you can actually never have anything. Any object can only be near you. How can you possess? Because spirit soul can have nothing of this material world. If I say, okay, I have this pen, it's not I have this pen. The soul has nothing to do with this pen. It is just matter. Right? And I found it very interesting that we use that mere paas as I have this. But mere paas means near me. The soul can never have anything. Right? So time makes us realize that how we can actually never have anything. The only thing we have is Krishna. Krishna devotion. That's the only thing that we can have connection with. And further he says, Akhila Ashray. He's the support of everyone. Sir Vishnu Akhya. He is Vishnu. Who is this time factor? Who is Paramatma? He is Vishnu. Adi Yagya. He is the enjoyer of all sacrifice. Kala. This is time. Right? And Kalyatam Prabhu. He is the master of all masters. So who is time? Vishnu. And who is this? And this is all the qualities of Vishnu. He is the one who enters everyone's heart. He is the one who annihilates all living entities. He is the support of everyone. He is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. He is the master of all masters. So Prabhupada in the purport he quotes, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Ar Sab Pratya. Right? Only the Lord is Ishvara is Krishna. Okay, 39.
Na chasya kashya daito, na dvesho na cha bandavaha, avishatya pramato so pramatam janam antakrit. Rohini Nagar Prabhu. Or I'll go. No one is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor is anyone his enemy or friend, but he gives inspiration to those who have not forgotten him and destroys those who have.
So further in 39, with making the point, so yes, he is in the heart of every living entity. And then in the previous verse, what did he say? That those who see Krishna as separate from time, then they are fearful of, they have fear in this world, right? But Krishna is actually the shelter of everyone, the previous verse. Now in 39, he's saying, Na asya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kashya Daitya na devyasha. He is not, he is not, no one is dear to him, nor does he maintain that this person is my friend, this person is my enemy. He doesn't have any distinction, right? So those who are not attentive to him, those who are against him, then Krishna actually destroys them. So even that destruction of Krishna in the form of time is the mercy of Krishna. Because unless that the temporary things are taken away from us, how will we realize that we are not of this world? So that is also the mercy of Krishna. But those who are attentive to him, avishati apramataha, then Krishna gives them inspiration. So Krishna's relationship is not partial, but reciprocal. Those who remember Krishna, don't turn away, Krishna gives, was 10.10? Tesam Sarta Yuktanam Bhajatam Pritim Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Right? Krishna gives them intelligence to come to them. But those who are not, then Krishna takes away everything so that they can come to him. So both ways, with Krishna is not partial. Right? Okay, next verse. So, and in Prabhupada and purpose, he says, those are bewildered by Maya, they are destroyed. Those are not bewildered by Maya, they are saved. But both of them, the Lord is actually manifesting and he's actually helping both of them. 40.
Yad bhayad vati vato yam suryastapati yad bhayad varshate devo gano bhati yad bhayad.
Text 40. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the wind blows. Out of fear of him, the sun shines. Out of fear of him, the rain pours forth showers. And out of fear of him, the host of heavenly bodies shed their luster.
So now the remaining verses is saying that how the Lord is so powerful, this manifestation of time, that because of this influence of time, everything is working in this world. Why? Because of time. Right? And here is saying, out of fear of him as time, Vati Vataha, the wind blows, the sun shines, the rain, God of rain sends rain. Why? Because fear. Because even demigods, they are fearful. I have been given this job by Krishna. If I don't do, Krishna will take me away. So let me do my job. All as a manifestation of time. Okay. 41.
Yadvanaspatayo bhita latashcho shadibhi saha swe swe kale bhikrinanti pushpani cha palani cha.
329:41. Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the trees, creepers, herbs, and seasonal plants and flowers blossom and fructify, each in its own season. Hare Krishna.
Sweswe Kale. Based on time, then the flower will sprout at the right time. Fruits will come at the right time. All that is under Krishna's control. Right? Okay, 42.
Sravanti sarito bhita notsarpatyudhadir yataha agnir indhe sagiribhir bhurna majati yad bhayat.
Out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the river flows and the ocean never overflows. Out of fear of him, only does fire burn and does the earth with its mountains, not sink in the water of the universe. Hare Krishna.
So, what is the point of all these verses? To see Krishna everywhere as the manifestation of time. And here is saying what? The rivers, why are they flowing? Because out of fear of Krishna. You know, how they say outside in the world that when the manager is really good, it appears that everything is happening automatically, right? That everyone is doing their time at the right time in this, So similarly here, the point is, yes, out of Krishna's management is so perfect that everything appears automatically, but actually everything is happening because of Krishna's presence. Okay, 43. We have two more verses, so I just want to, it's all exactly this like similar theme. So
Prabhuji, can I ask a quick question or do you want me to wait until the end?
can we just finish the
Sure. Okay.
43?
Nabo dadati shvashatam padam yan niyamadadaha lokam swadeham tanute mahan saptabhir avritam.
Hare Krishna. Subject to the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sky allows outer space to accommodate all the various planets, which hold innumerable living entities. The total universal body expands with its 7 coverings under his supreme control.
If you remember the creation, our favorite chapter of Bhagavatam, 2.5, 3.5, after Karandaksha Vishnu, what happened? Time. Kal actually entered that causes all the agitation to continue. It was the influence of time. So same point here. It is only because of time that this universal body got the 7 coverings, it expands. Because of time, there is space for living entities to live, etc., etc. 44.
Gunabhimanino deva sargadishvasya yadbhayat vartante nuyugam yesham vasha etacharacharam.
Out of fear of Supreme Personality of Godhead, the directing demigods in charge of the modes of material nature carry out the functions of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Everything animate and inanimate within this material world is under their control.
So this time, which is an aspect of the Lord, even the demigods in charge of the modes. Who are demigods in charge of the mode? Brahma. Here actually, Vishwacharya Thakur says Brahma, Dharma, and Shiva. Right. So all those also do their duties. Why? Because of fear, yet bhayat, because of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right. And everything animate and inanimate, everything is under the control of that Lord. Last 45.
Sonantonta karakalo nadir adi krit avyayah janam janena janayan marayan mrityunantakam.
What is that?
Or Gopinath Acharya.
The eternal time factor has no beginning and no end. It is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the maker of the criminal world. It brings about the end of the phenomenal world. It carries on the work of creation by bringing one individual into existence from another. And likewise, it dissolves the universe by destroying even the Lord of Death, Yamaraj.
So antaha, time is endless, right? There's no the end at particular. Time is endless. Anadi and antakara. There's no beginning, no end, or other way we explain it, without time has no beginning, but it causes everyone's birth. Right? We celebrate birthdays. Why? Because so and so time I was born. Right? So it brings about everyone's beginning. Time has no end, but it causes the end of everyone. Time has no beginning but causes everyone's birth. Time has no end but causes everyone's death. And Maraya Mrityun Antakam. It destroys the universe by even destroying the Lord of Death, Yamaraj. That is the power of time. Okay? And this effect of time that we are reading, next chapter, we will see how time affects conditioned living entities. That's the next chapter. Okay, so we'll discuss that next week. Okay, so let's stop here. Okay, so I think, so thank you all so much. I know it's 8:45 if you have to leave. You're welcome to do that. I'll just take one question by Rashri Mataji, and then if anyone has any final comments.
Thank
Go
you, Prabhu. So why is it called out of fear? Like when I read that translation for 41, out of fear, the trees, creepers, seasonal herbs, they blossom and fructify in its own season. Why fear? Like,
Yeah. So, you see, the question the devotee asked in text 4 is describe the nature of time, fearing which people perform pious activities. That was the original question, right? Now, Kapila Dev is giving the answer that yes, time is actually Krishna, it's a manifestation of Krishna. And because of the fear of time, people do the right things, like the rivers flow because of fear of time. You know, see, the point is, if there was no manifestation of time, right? I mean, just a hypothetical situation that everything was eternal, then all these demigods also, who are actually controlling different aspects, they would be like, okay, why should I do my duties? You know? So there is some element of fear because of which they are doing it. Even demigods, they are controlling air, they are giving the rain, they are doing all that because there is a time factor. And they know so and so season is there. I have to give the flowers have to, blossom in this season. This has to happen in this season. And what all that changes is because of time. So there is a fear, except for one who's a devotee, who knows that time is Krishna, then there is no fear. But everyone else, there is this constant fear, and because of which they do their things, and then that's what is described. This is the influence of time. I mean,
very, very high level.
even we have this, right? I mean, like, it could be just like a mundane thing, like, oh, I have a deadline, hence I should do this, or raising children. Oh, child in so and so years, I have to give this education. It's all out of influence of time, out of fear. Right? If the child is not given the right education at the right time, then you fear that, oh, how will he survive in this world? It's all influence of time. So the constant time fear is there in every living entity, and that's the emphasis of this entire section. That even demigods, and what's the last verse it said? Even Brahmaji, he's fearful of time. Even I have only 100 years. His 100 years is different from us, but even I have only 100 years, so let me do everything what I need to do. So whole world they don't realize it, but everyone is fearful of time, because of which everything is happening. And that's okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. Any final comments? I'll end here. Okay, so thank you so much. So we'll continue. Chapter 30 next week, description by Lord Kapila of adverse fruitive activity. It's like next chapter is like a wake-up call. If you're getting complacent in a bhakti, we can read the next chapter. That's very nice. Okay, so thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ekadashi ki jai, Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripasindhubhyo cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Thank you all so much for your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
for joining. Hare Krishna.